Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives. This is Jess, and I am here with my returning friend, Emerson Collins from the People's Couch. What's up, Emerson?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to see you.
Literally.
We are gathered here today to revisit and re-examine a 2013 one-season wonder, Princesses Long Island.
This was such an exciting journey. Full disclosure, I missed this entirely the first time.
Did you?
Yeah, so it's been in my, I know people love it, have, discussed it's one of the great one-season wonders, and I now definitely concur, but I totally missed it. So this was a very exciting, brand new exposure to these women.
So I definitely remember when it was premiering on Bravo in 2013, and I think I lasted 2 or 3 episodes and never completed it. So the majority of it was brand new for me.
And for me, it was literally cultural anthropology. I felt because I am from suburban Texas. I mean, I did go to high school in Singapore, but
oh, wow, you did?
Yeah. When I was 16, we moved from Houston to Singapore and I graduated from high school there. But when I went back to Texas for college, and I grew up in real suburban Texas, where I don't think I really was aware of knowing a Jewish person till high school, a tiny bit, but literally post college, that much of a Protestant Southern Baptist. There was a Jewish temple in my neighborhood, but I didn't know anyone that went there. But so all of this life of that the deep dive culture of the different kinds of Jewish culture, Orthodox, people that are culturally but not religiously, or people, and I'm very familiar with it now living in LA, and WeHo has has the full gamut. But this growing up, this whole Long Island world was so fascinating because it's so foreign.
Emerson, I have never been so excited to talk about something. I have never been more prepared to talk about something in my entire life.
Our total opposite arrivals at this moment in place. Yes. It's literally I laughed because I almost called you as I was watching to be I need you to translate what's happening for me. I'm on my phone with Google Maps looking at the North Shore versus the South Shore.
Holy shit, you are prepared. You are prepared. Freeport, you are prepared.
I was definitely the best little boy student in school, raising my hand. I have a question. I don't do anything halfway, but I was I need to understand these things, these neighborhoods, how the Long Island Railroad works. I learned all the things.
So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about the cast. We're going to discuss our highlights, our lowlights. Why do we think this was canceled? Of course, where are they now? And just really explore everything regarding Princesses Long Island. I guess to start, did you cover this on People's Couch? Because both shows started in 2013.
Yeah, but they were done by the time, because we did our 3-episode trial period at the very end of the year.
Oh.
So they were already done.
Damn.
By the time we arrived. And I think that's why that I missed it and then got deeper into Bravo as we launched at the end of the year.
Got it. So to quickly summarize, Princesses Long Island is about a group of Jewish girls around the ages of 27 to 30 on Long Island. That's basically it. Is there more to it?
It's really important to know, if you didn't watch the show, that every time one of these women appears on screen, for all 10 episodes of this season, her age is underneath her name. I couldn't get past that. It never stopped happening.
I know. It was relentless with the ages.
I was getting panicky for them just from it felt like a needle every time it happened. Joey, 26, Janelle, 26, Ashley, 30. It was oh my God. I feel I was waiting for a little animated graphic of an egg dying in a utero, to appear next to the name. So you only have 8 eggs left.
Mm-hmm. The basic thesis of the show is 100% accurate. Long Island is very much made up of people who never leave Long Island. People who were born there and then go off to college and then return to live in their parents' house until an undeterminate amount of time. And then oftentimes they will get married and somehow wind up like buying their grandmother's house. Like they never leave the town they were in. This is very accurate. This is everyone I went to high school with.
It's so funny. And also the weird thing is this is weirdly relatably Southern too, because it's like, even though it's aggressively specific, there's so many corollaries to the South of like, Southern debutante society is the same way. Like as a woman, you have no value except for like once you're attached to your husband. People that grow up in towns and never leave the town, like that. It is very similar. So just with a hilariously different accent, but it was like definitely relatable on that level. But I have to like watching it now, I'm sure it was different then. And I've certainly grown as a man in how I think of like women and misogyny since I was younger. But just the whole thing of like, you don't get to leave your parents' house. Nothing matters except getting married. Like, and the pressure that these women genuinely feel in that area, like provided lots of humor and was also incredibly heartbreaking. Like I wanted to wrap poor Chanel in a hug like every time she talked.
This is quite a journey. Like if you complete it, if you get from the pilot episode to the season finale or the series finale, this show does not know if it's a comedy. Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? What is it? Like they go so hard on the Jewish stereotypes, I would say for the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season, Chanel is having serious, like deep conversations with her rabbi that are genuinely moving. Another girl is talking about how she had a stroke last year and about her actual physical health. And yet one girl is sticking her tongue down the boyfriend's throat. Tonally, it's all over the map.
It definitely makes like the full journey. I mean, literally at one point, y'all, there's like a woman goes missing and it's like a horror film at the end of the 9th episode. Like, did she die in the vineyard? Who knows? But it actually did what is why I love reality television to begin with, right? They all start with stereotypes. It's like, that's the nature of reality. Like, we want to introduce you to this type of person from this type of place. And then when they are best, they then peel away those layers, like where those stereotypes come from, why they are so common, and then what there is underneath and what more there is to this person beyond that thing. I mean, several of these women I had yo-yo personal reactions to, like, I love you, oh my God, I can't stand you, oh my God, I feel sorry for, I think that's what's great in reality TV. Like, the casting is stereotypes, and then the production hopefully provides opportunity to show which people are that and why that stereotype exists and which people aren't, and you shouldn't make assumptions and how they lean away from that or how they are fighting to throw off the stereotypes. And I actually feel like this one season of the show did that development really well.
So much so that the show inspired the Daily Beast article, "Is Bravo's Princesses Long Island the most offensive TV show ever?" Because they did compare the stereotypes. They compared and contrasted the stereotypes here to the stereotypes on Jersey Shore.
Yeah. But the challenge becomes when you want to make a show about a currently marginalized or historically marginalized group of people that you don't often see in entertainment, it can be far more dangerous to perpetuate those stereotypes, even if the point is to undermine them, because it's not people that you see often. But I found myself really informed and entertained about the culture by sticking with it as a viewer. Certainly, if I were Jewish and watched the first episode, I don't know what I would think. What was yours? Is that why you fell out of it originally?
I just don't know that it hooked me originally.
Yeah. Well, if you went to high school with all those girls, like, what's interesting about watching that? I certainly don't need to watch a show about like Southern frat boys. So,
it's very caricature-ish. The things that they say, the jokes that they're making. First of all, you can tell that a lot of them are written. Like, you can tell that a lot of this was scripted for them. Just in terms of some of the jokes that they're making were so. No girl that's 27 years old is making jokes about Manischewitz. It's like ridiculous.
Right, like leaning really, really into the orthodoxness. Like, certainly for Chanel is the like Carrie Bradshaw of the show. Definitely seemed like she was also asked to single-handedly carry the torch for the Orthodox community, being the only one who is in any way. And that seemed like a rather heavy weight to have to like carry, to be the most authentic constantly. I will say Shabbat apocalypse is a great word, though.
Oh, was that the name of one of the episodes, or did they just say that at some
They
point?
they said it when Chanel hosted Shabbat, and that's where like Erica and Casey. Should we do the characters before we keep talking?
Like, yeah, let's break people into it. Some general observations that I had.
Yes.
Number one, the confessionals are all filmed in front of their beds, some of which have stuffed animals on them, which is a very Long Island Jew. I mean, that was me with the stuffed animals. Like, I had stuffed
Yep.
animals on my bed, like through, and in my room, like through high school. I mean, it's very embarrassing to admit, but it's kind of.
I mean, I feel like it's not as uncommon as. I mean, I feel like it's a little different at 27 than it is at like 17.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, exactly.
like maybe they go in boxes that you save for the kids at some point, but like no judgment, whatever.
Um, in fact, when at the time when my girlfriend and I moved in together, she was like, "These are going away." Like, I remember I had like, I think I had like a stuffed pug, like, or a stuffed puggle, and she's like,
Yeah.
"This is creepy and going away." I was like, "No."
She said, Jess, we're either getting a real dog or nothing, but we are
Yes.
not keeping the stuffed dog on the bed with us. But that seems like the right time to like grow out of that. Oh, right. Now there's someone else in the bed with me. I don't need that anymore.
Did you know that? And this I do remember from the original airing of the show. The theme song is the Scissor Sisters song "Baby Come Home," but on Hulu, or where did we watch? Oh, we watched this on iTunes. Oh no, Jesus Christ!
I watched it on Amazon.
Yeah, on Amazon. I guess they didn't get the music rights, so it's just some generic.
Totally. They're like, no, we're not paying for that.
I know, that's like a bummer. Okay, so the cast. So we have Chanel Omari. She is, like you said, like the Carrie Bradshaw. She is kind of our entry point, and they built the show around her. Supposedly, this is based on her group of friends on Long Island, which I know she was legitimately very close friends with Erica Gimbel. And I think she loosely knew Amanda Bertoncini. I don't know if she was legitimately friends with the other girls.
Now, she seemed to, I mean, she heavily implied, and when we got to the end of the season, that she and Ashley were very close.
Oh, yes. She
As
definitely
well.
was close with Ashley.
Like, I will say, of all the like groups we've watched like this one seemed to have the most like genuinely authentic, friendships. Even if they weren't like super close all the time recently, it did seem like we were not like meeting each other. We do, for better or for worse, like actually know each other.
And also, even if they didn't legitimately know each other, because they're all Jewish girls from Long Island between 27 and 30, that is an immediacy. The same way if I meet somebody now who's in their mid 30s that's Jewish from Long Island, it's a shorthand. You're like, oh yeah, I know you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we jump into any other characters, I did want to ask you how much of this reminded you of Real Housewives of New York. Was there any familiarity?
That didn't trigger for me like that.
Not even old school, when you'd see like Jill Zarin and like Bethany in the kitchen.
There definitely, I would say there's parallels to early New York with the like, oh, the one random poor friend who's the like mathy one. Like Joey was definitely the like early season Bethany.
Oh yeah.
To Ashley's like Countess or Ramona,
Yes.
so to speak. Yes, definitely. There's the parallels now. I mean, because like Chanel, for y'all, Chanel's entire storyline is I'm 27 years old and my 24-year-old sister is getting married and I am therefore dead as a person. Like y'all, it wasn't like, it is a crisis, a universe crisis. It's the only thing she had to talk about the whole season, and it was like not casual.
I have to say, Chanel delivered the best performance. I felt like she was the most natural on camera, and I believed everything she was saying and doing. She really just felt the most authentic.
It definitely felt like that's really Chanel. Like even if she needed to be fed a few lines to make like jokes and interviews or whatnot, she wasn't amping up for scenes in any way. And this really is like, she really is in this painful moment in her life of like, is my life over because my younger sister got married for me, all the way up to like speaking at the sister's wedding where like no one was paying attention to her like sister of the bride speech, to that terrible date that she went on with the best man.
Oh, we're getting into all of that.
Like, but no, I would say, and I think they were right to put her in that spot. She's the most like universally relatable as well, I think.
Yeah, and I love that you compared her to Carrie Bradshaw. Like that you are dead. Like I actually didn't think of that until you said it. I'm like, like that's it.
Her interviews always felt like, maybe was I Was it my?
I couldn't help. No, her interviews are always. I couldn't help but wonder.
What was my orthodox becoming unorthodox? Like,
Totally. I felt that she was the most natural on camera next to Amanda.
yes.
You agree?
Yes. Well, because Amanda has the like Brandy Glanville, the Snooki, the like she can't help but just like be herself. You know, it's like it's just there.
Yeah.
And it's compelling because it's like definitely bonkers adjacent, but you want to watch to see what happens next.
This is Amanda Bertoncini. I first of all, I love her right out of the gate because this girl is a cross between Lady Gaga and my therapist, who is, I'm pretty sure, 32 years old. She's definitely from Long Island, and I'm 90% sure she is fucking 32 years old.
I love her. It was funny because for like half a second Amanda has a boyfriend. She's 26. He's 38. They met on the Long Island Railroad, which sounds really cute until he continues telling the story that he like watched her day after day after day after day. And then he went and bought an outfit to dress up for her. I was like in for the relationship and then creeped out by the relationship.
He's definitely, so her boyfriend is this guy, Jeff. And half the time you're like, is this guy gay? Is he straight? Like, is he, in 5 years, is he going to come out of the closet? Like, what's happening with him? Although at the end, I was like, I guess he is straight. I was endeared to him because he reminded me a little bit of Carl Radke.
Oh, totally.
A Jewish dorky Carl Radke.
Yeah. And then they grossed me out with like the PDA. At a certain point, I was like, okay, we get it. But you are grown-ups and like go have sex. Like just go have sex and like stop making out at parties.
They were very much like the SNL characters that when Jimmy Fallon and Rachel Dratch played the boyfriend and girlfriend from Boston.
Yes.
Right?
Very that. Yeah. Because like, and good for you, like have a great relationship, be into each other. But once you're older than like 14, like deep makeouts in public is silly. Like go home. It's fine. Like totally do that all you want to, but like leave.
Amanda's an entrepreneur. She came up with the drink hanky, which I believe they may still be selling on Amazon. It's basically like a sleeve for your drink so it doesn't sweat. And she says, I want it to replace the napkin.
The businesses on this show were so ahead of their Bravo time. Like it took the Housewives so many more years to get deep into nonsense businesses. Like these women already had these going. Like Drink Hanky, Kissament, they were clearly happening before this show, despite being totally unviable as real world products. Because the idea, what are you gonna do? Carry this Drink Hanky in your purse to the bar, and like men gonna carry it in his pocket? Like, I mean, I guess if it doubled as a pocket square, but like good for her for like Green New Deal long before, while AOC was still a bartender somewhere.
I know. And Amanda's mom is also on the show a lot, and she's very much like a Dina Lohan type.
Oh, this is where I like fell in love with Amanda really, because I was like, that mom journey is dark. That anytime like the mom moms that want to be friends with their kids is like adorable up to a line, and then there's a line that once you cross it, it's like, ooh, that's gross. And Barb's definitely in the like, do you want to be friends with your daughter? Do you want to be your daughter? Like the dinner with Jeff's parents where she was like, she can't move in with you. Didn't feel like it was on Amanda's behalf. It felt like, because like, I don't want to be alone without her.
She seemed jealous of the daughter.
Yeah.
Because she was like freshly divorced or something, or she was divorced. And it just seemed like she was envious that Amanda had this relationship.
Yeah. Like don't go to the same colorist and cut and like everything like as your kid. Like let your kid be a person.
My favorite discovery when finding out like where these people are up to now is the Amanda and Jeff journey. Do you know, I was dying. First of all, I had to do a real fucking scrub of the internet to find out if these two, how long were they together? So, okay, do you know, did we find the same things?
I found a wedding registry in 2017.
Can I, Emerson, it was as if my head spun around. It was an exorcism. When I found their wedding, I could not believe they got engaged and stayed together until 2017.
Yes. And they had the engagement party. Like her mother threw it, paid for it, it looks like. And then there's nothing else.
I guess they broke up. She wound up, like Chanel, they both pursued careers in like radio hosting. on Long Island, and Amanda wound up getting a job in Florida. So I guess they obviously split. She moved to Florida, where she still is. And now, according to Facebook, it seems like she's engaged to a new dude.
Yes, that's what it looked like to me too. And I'm like, good for you. But also, like, she didn't need it. When he gave her that promise ring on the train that wasn't an engagement ring, first of all, where I'm from, a promise ring.
That was for the cameras, please.
Of course it was. But then he called it that because we're in the South. A promise ring is that thing, that weird thing that girls give their dad to like hold on to their virginity until they get married. So like promise ring has such a different connotation. It's like the weirdest like middle school thing. It's like getting pinned by your sorority, you know, in like the 50s. Like it's the pre-engagement.
Emerson, you should have seen me. I dropped the fuck dead when I found their wedding registry. I could and it took me forever to find this. I was like, oh my God, it's going to kill me if I don't know what happened with these two.
Oh, same. I mean, I love that we're talking about like, oh, whatever, you know, and we're this obsessed. First of all, I'm in lockdown. I have nothing to do, but I have nothing but free time. But I was like, I am finding out what happens. There's a Reddit board from like 2 or 3 years ago that had a bunch of updates, but I was like, no, I need to know now. Like, what's current? What's happening?
Next up, we have Joey. She is 100% the Bethany. She is the poor one from Freeport. She's the entrepreneur, total outsider, and she's actually genuinely funny.
Yes. I was fascinated because like I'm definitely a Joey stan, like at the end of all of this, because this is where I was like looking at the map on my phone. Because do you remember, who was it? Wasn't it Ashley? Who was it? Somebody drove over to where Joey lives, and Ashley was like on the phone with her dad, afraid to get out of her car because there was like green stuff in the chain link fence. And it was like not ironic. Like she let this be filmed on camera. And I was like, this woman is not poor. Like, first of all, she's not poor. That's not poor, to be clear. Like, like this North Shore, South Shore. I was kind of obsessed with the whole, like, the North Shore is wealthy. And she was like, yeah, and the South Shore is hot. And she brought like all her hot meathead friends to the pool party.
Reminds me, there is this Billy Joel quote. He says, you either date a rich girl from the North Shore or a cool girl from the South Shore. And Joey echoes that, saying, on Long Island, you're either born rich, marry rich, or you start a business. So I started a business.
And I was like genuinely, like, I was here for that. Like the journey of like, we definitely are a middle class income. I don't think you can say much lower than that. Let's be real. Just based on the way that she looked at apartments, like she is not poor, has never been poor. But comparatively speaking, and I started a business that I've been working on for 2 years. That's like a real thing I'm really trying to do with the dad who thinks she doesn't do enough, even though she's like actually working and like get out of my house in 90 days.
The dad was definitely abusive, or like verbally abusive at the least. Long Island is, so I'm from the South Shore. I'm from Oceanside, and where she went apartment looking was actually in Long Beach, which was where a lot of my family is right now. It's actually where my mom went to high school, and like my grandparents live there. Like all my family is there now. And so yeah, I'm very much like from the South Shore. The North Shore, it's basically just where all the rich people. Like I never really knew people. I know a couple people now who are from there, but growing up I didn't have any friends at all from
it. Definitely seems like there's a very strong class divide in addition to the geography. You know, it's like it's not a giant amount of space, but it might as well be hundreds of miles for like the lack of cross interaction across the communities.
It's extremely, Long Island in general is extremely segregated. The wealthier people live in some areas and they're white. And then there are the quote unquote bad areas that are like the inner towns on Long Island that aren't by the water. And those are mostly people of color. You know, of course, there's some exceptions. Like this is like a generalization, but
yeah,
I don't think people who live on Long Island understand how much of a racial divide there really is.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and it's that weird thing of, you know, in our current environment and talking about being actively anti-racist and all of these things, the environment you grow up in has such an effect on that, because until a much later age in adolescence or further for many people, that's just the way the world is. You know, it's not even, oh, that kind of person is lesser than me. It's the lack of familiarity that breeds like unconscious biases, right? Microaggressions, like little things where like to like just have your development impact perceptions, and then you make decisions based on those perceptions. And if you don't travel, if you don't get outside of your community to challenge your own biases or even realize they exist, then you don't notice why that thing that you said that's just, no, that's just the way they like it, and they has a big capital T on it. And you think, I don't mean anything by that, but you do, and your lack of exposure is why you don't understand why it's a problem. No, so that's my question, right? Like, how wide is like your personal radius of your like world growing up, right? Is it literally like your little township? And how big is that? Like 2 miles in either direction? And then like the next town is like literally might as well be another state?
Correct.
That is like fascinating to me because like we have that in the South, but it is actual literal distance to the next town. It's like the suburbs of like the like Dallas and Houston and whatever, like they're all sort of similar, and you do like drive and everything. That like my whole world is this 2 miles and that close to New York City, and yet it's literally you need a passport and a snacks and like going into the city, right? Like that's the way I understand it.
No. Okay. So no, going into the city is actually far easier than you would think. The city from where I grew up, and maybe the city was slightly further out. Maybe these girls were slightly further out because they're in the North Shore. They're like Roslyn and Great Neck primarily. Either way, we're talking like 45 minutes.
Right, but it seems like not that the trip is hard, but that people think of it and treat it like, oh, that's like I need to like get my passport. Like most people just don't do it.
I mean, I grew up going to the city. Like my dad worked in the city, so to me, like I thought the city was Penn Station. Totally. When I was growing up, I literally like I was so excited to go to Hudson News. In Penn Station, and like going to work with my dad was like the most exciting thing, because like he worked at the New York Stock Exchange, so it was an exciting environment. It was a crazy environment, and I loved that. I grew up, obsessed with pop culture and having the amazing access to like 30 Rock and being able to, go see the set of like the Rosie O'Donnell show and the Today Show and Saturday Night Live. Like that's what I did all of high school.
But when I watch this, it feels like your experience like that's different for like than a lot of these women, than a lot of like Long Islanders. Do you say Long Islanders? Long
Islanders, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Or is it like that everybody has a phase in high school or early college where if they don't go away, they're like doing a lot of like, this is my era of going into the city before I settle down?
Well, listen, I mean, I remember we would always come into the city to go to shows, like to go to Broadway shows, to go to concerts. I was always coming into the city before I lived here. You know what it is about Long Island? Here's the thing. You either love the city or you hate the city.
That definitely seems like there's no in between, right?
There's no in between. You either grew up loving it and you knew that you wanted to go to NYU and like move to the city. That was your goal in life. Or you're like, I fucking hate it. I hate the train. I hate the Long Island Railroad. I hate the subway. I'm confused by everything. And those are the people who like never go in.
And also my perception is that it's much more conservative in general. That it's like, and I don't mean that like all young people are, but if like New York City is very blue and very sort of like liberal melting pot, that it feels like there's a much stronger like conservative.
Long Island is Trump.
Yeah.
Not all of it, obviously, but by and large, Long Island is Republican, and it's there. Yeah.
I mean, that's funny. There's so many of these things are, the South mirrors so much. Just like Dallas County is very blue, but there are like giant pockets of like both wealthy and not wealthy, really red sections within it, so that there is that juxtaposition. But Joey's in it. But I stand Joey. I stand Joey's mouth. I stand Joey's vulgarity. I loved her like at the blind date thing, asking men how big their penises were and having a good time. Like anybody that pokes at the like absurd social mores of classism is always entertaining.
It was very Bethany. And she even kind of like resembles her.
Yeah, totally. And that like the biggest offensive thing anyone said all season wasn't the word faggot that was said at a party. It was when she called someone funny looking. shut up. Like, you're all crazy people. And I say that as a person with mental health issues.
And then finally we have Erica Gimbel, who we're introduced to Erica through a voiceover. I think it was Chanel's voiceover saying Erica was the hottest girl on Long Island in high school. And then
so glad.
And then you cut to her like sweaty on the curb, like smoking a cigarette.
I had so many questions about that because it was said by so many people. Like, she was the hottest girl in our high school. And like, she's a fine, attractive woman. And obviously as a homosexual man, I like don't have a lot of interest in the like concept in general, but she wasn't so like definitively drop dead beyond everyone else to be worthy of the title. And I thought actually what it told me more was like how high school is so weird anyway. Like, I feel like lots of high schools actually had that. The girl that was like, quote unquote, the hottest girl. If everyone looked back, you'd be like, wait, why did everyone make her so much above everyone else and give her the room to steal people's boyfriends?
And this is also true. This is also accurate. I mean, listen, a lot of this show was very, very accurate. The one of the elements that really rang true for me is that as you get into your 20s, people are still rehashing the shit that happened in high school. That is 100% true. 'Cause my experience is that I remain best friends with my best friend Michael. We met in 5th grade. I haven't really remained super close with people that I met just in high school. Like, he really is my ride or die from that time. So my link to the rest of the people who I went to high school with, and even younger, to be honest with you, like we all kind of went to the same elementary school, junior high, and high school, my link is through him. So he is my extension to all these people. And for a long time, he still lived on Long Island. He no longer does, but he was one of those people that like wound up buying his grandmother's house and like lived there for a while.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say he did eventually move to North Carolina with his husband, and now they live in Jersey. So it all worked out for him.
Yes.
But it's totally true. Like even now when we hang out, he's talking about like complaining about our high school friends who he is still legitimately best friends with. And I'm like, what do you have in common with these people? He's like, I guess just our lives.
Yeah, that history for so many people is undeniable, right? It's like you were there when the things happened. And I think it's one, like adolescent trauma, if you don't deeply unpack that, lives with you forever. It makes sense. Like your body's developing, your brain's developing, the things that do damage to you then can stick with you for your whole life. And for people who don't ever leave where those things happened, those things can impact your life forever. I mean, I think as we get to talk about Casey, even those of us that escape, right? If you don't deal with a thing from back then, you can be great and stable and functional and doing all these things. And somebody from a terrible period of your life can absolutely be like, I'm suddenly 14 again and eating my lunch in the bathroom one day because like I'm terrified. Oh, wait, but to finish on Erica and for everyone listening. So she was the hottest girl in high school. She's definitely boy crazy. And she clearly has some coping issues related to like alcohol as well that she discusses.
She's in a relationship where she hates her boyfriend and he wants to like move in.
They like look at houses together and she's like not even sure she wants to be with him.
Okay, they go to look at houses and the realtor at the end, and she's showing them like basically, you know, the 2013 version of like Jennifer Aden's house with like 13 bathrooms, as if these two kids would need this. And she's like, okay, so it's 1.7. I'm like, on what planet can these two people, like, is this just for the show? Because like this isn't real.
Or like where like the family money's impact, you know, when you come from big, long straining money, it's like, are my parents buying me this house for? And I will say my deep dive on Erica, she has been sober like several times. And I believe recently she's had like a full year sober. So like she's definitely dealt with that in her life.
Wow.
You know, as we talk about like the fun things of the show, I do want to applaud like taking action and taking control of those things. Like that's amazing because like how she addressed the history was like, oof.
I didn't even get to that she was sober. I think because honestly, she was my least. I hated her. Like I really hated her.
Well, they set her up to be also, when you say like the coolest girl in high school, every one of us is set up to not like that character anyway, because even the people who were that person in high school don't see themselves that way and have that person. I feel like every one of us is immediately inclined to be like, cross your arms and be like, eh. And she did not help it with the way she like hit on lots of other guys and the way she like made it all about her, this traumatic thing she did to Casey over a decade ago. So let's talk about Casey, right? Because this is how they tie.
Yeah. So basically the tie between these two girls is that in high school, one stole the other's boyfriend. And now they're still like fighting about it or talking about it.
And so much darker than that, Erica stole Casey's boyfriend close enough to prom that they continuously described Casey sitting at home in the prom dress she'd already purchased because she didn't have anyone to go with. I don't feel like Casey actually just like put it on and sat at home by herself that night, but that's definitely the way they tried to describe it. And they've like not seen each other since. And y'all, it does not go well.
For what it's worth, Casey is actually the coolest girl in high school. She is the one who fucking escaped, actually got to experience the city, and she's now like a fitness influencer.
Yes, like huge, big, like fitness, body work, like influencer, like clearly living the city life, like got up and got out and like made a new world.
She was by far the most mature on the show. Loved her. The girl who I went on the most interesting journey with is Ashley.
Yes.
Ashley White. At first blush, she's sort of like a Snooki type, you know, sort of just seems very caricature-ish and like just doing like a lot of antics.
She seemed the most princessiest to me in the pilot. And it seemed like she was very enjoying leaning into being like, yes, I'm proudly the girl living at home with mommy and daddy. They're my best friends. They buy me anything I want. I like nice things. I only wear heels everywhere I go. I demand that a store with a power outage open because I have got to buy right now today the dress for my 30th birthday or absolutely melt and die in this parking lot like the Wicked Witch of the West did. Like she fully embraced that stereotype.
I found her obviously like really annoying at first, but then once I suspect she at first was heavily produced, and then as she got more comfortable in front of the camera, she started letting her guard down, having more fun with it, and allowed herself to be vulnerable. It comes out on camera that she's a virgin. And one of them jokes like, "You're a 30-year-old virgin." Like, I actually really liked that scene when they had like the sleepover.
I did too, yes.
Because they were like kind of my three favorites in a way. I liked the trio of them. At the end, I did find her endearing. And she's the one who at the end has like, I guess, the anxiety attack, or she reveals that a year prior to filming, she had a stroke, and she like, this is in the final episode, she reveals this and starts talking about like the side effects that she had or the complications that she had. And she suddenly felt the most real, which was, it was like whiplash a little bit.
It was interesting because my yo-yo journey with her was, at the very beginning, I was like, okay, right. You're the wealthy elite girl, happy to be like daddy's little princess girl. Like they're my best friends. But I turned immediately around when at that giant party, when like some girl called Jeff a faggot, and Ashley was the only one, at least on camera, to be like, that is not a word we say. And I was like, okay, princess, I'm here for you. Cause like standing up, like when it isn't about your friend, that's really cool. And then it was interesting because I enjoyed her directness at times. Like she lives in a bubble, and I will say at the Vineyard, I was like, you're wrong. Like not in the argument, but in the like running away and hyperventilating and asking daddy to send a jet because you can't wait for a car service, and then wandering off the Vineyard by yourself. I agreed with Amanda in the finale when she was like, you were a 30-year-old and put yourself in that situation. Like certainly going to the hospital is incredibly traumatic. I don't want to negate that. But like you created a situation for yourself and then blamed everyone else for the situation you created. And then the big reveal that she had a stroke, and explaining why she, you know, would, when those feelings come up, you know, if that contributes to that and the fear of that happening again. And I will say in my dive on Ashley, she's become a big medical advocate. She has had, I believe, 1 or 2 more strokes since the show aired.
Yeah.
She spent several years caring for her mother in Alzheimer's, and she passed just over a year ago. So she's been deep in health and wellness, and it's really actually amazing and impressive how she's turned her own experience outwards. And I want to really applaud that. But like the princess thing of like, everyone should take care of me because I ran away and threw a tantrum. I was like, not with you there. And then when she gave the explanation, like hers was the best dramatic arc through the season. of explaining her reality. You know, it was like we kept peeling away layers that explain why she is the way she is, right? Like, I'm so close to my parents
Totally.
because I spent a year at home, like learning to speak again and talk again. And so that thing that seemed like silly early, you're like, well, of course that's the way you feel. Your whole world's changed. That is what I love about reality TV. Like, peeling away someone's journey gives you insight into them. And this thing that you didn't understand, the more you get, whether you like it or not, you know why they are the way they are. And she was the best journey of that for me.
What were your highlights and lowlights from the season?
Okay, highlight. The vineyard fight, like, I'm sorry that it ended with Ashley, like, off on the horror movie, was one of the greatest, like, Bravo fights I've ever seen. Like, because the degree of, like, truth in the argument of, like, 6 women, like, nobody willing to stop talking for the other person, and, like, the ebbs and flows of the argument that was, like, not for camera. It was clearly like, I just can't let this go. And then we've got Erica running off to smoke and calling Rob. We've got Ashley running off to call her parents. We've got, like, Amanda's the only one who seemed to manage to get a little bit tipsy as they spent a day at a vineyard, which they kept calling a wine vineyard, which I loved so much. But, like, that fight, I was like, this fight in this vineyard, and Erica walking off to pee in the middle of the grapes, I was like, this should have earned them a second season, like, just this scene.
That was very, when Erica peed in the middle of the vineyard, that was very Sonia Morgan ahead of its time.
And also, Real Housewives of Dallas, Cameron peeing behind the tractor. Like, these women were peeing out, and it, you know, and it echoes the vineyard where we heard Joe Giudice on the phone.
Yes.
Like, the things, like, these women got to all of these giant scene pieces before anyone else. That and Shabbat Apocalypse, where Casey was like, I'm sorry, Erica, I literally can't sit at the table with you. Like, don't say anything else. You slept with my boyfriend when we were 17, and I, like, just can't do Shabbat with you. I was like, highlights, true highlights.
For me, I felt the crown jewel of this show was when Chanel had a full meltdown. It was the party for the drink
hanky at the salon.
The drink hanky at the salon. Chanel starts fighting with just a random person whose face is blurred out, and she is physically fighting with open fists. That was fucking totally crazy. And just Chanel in general, honestly, was a highlight. Like, I felt her emotion. Like, when she cried, it all felt so real. That, and I think the scene with her rabbi. The emotion was just, you can't manufacture that. And that's what's sorely missing in Housewives these days.
This show had the most authentic tears of any Bravo show in the history of ever. Like, poor Tamara Barney trying to squeeze out a tear at a reunion. And these girls just, like, full on emotional breakdown, like, anytime there's a confrontation. I mean, Chanel stomping up and down in front of the, like, step and repeat we almost didn't get put up for the, like, drink hankies we're selling at the event, to multiple times fight with someone, and Ashley doing the whole, you're a bad person to Joey, and Joey's running to support Chanel and yelling backwards at Ashley while she's running towards the confrontation. I was like, Housewives wish they could have this many levels of confrontation occurring in a single event. Like, it took most Housewives seasons five years to get to this level of complicated confrontation. And, you know, I felt like they did it's so funny because their season finale, y'all, is basically a reunion. They just, like, did it themselves. It's like they're all standing on a pier by Rosh Hashanah, like, airing all their grievances. They just did a reunion without Andy, like, right there. Like, all the way down to the, like, side talk of, like, don't get upset, don't get upset. Like, they did every aspect of a reunion in the final 15 minutes of this season. Wait, I'm just reading through my notes for other highlight moments. Mm-hmm. In the second episode, when they go to the bar and it turns out that it's penis night, like, it was like gay boy night at the bar.
Yeah, that was great.
Love that. And that photo shoot they did in the construction zone for the drink hanky.
Oh my God.
You know, there was a scandal with that. They got cut from the show.
Speak about that, because I have a little bit of tea on this, but talk about the scandal.
There was a memorial statue of a fallen 9/11 firefighter from Great Neck that was in that park somewhere that they took photos with. And clearly Amanda and Ilton and the model, like, had no idea, but they took photos being cute with it. And when the episode aired, people from the area, you know, and family members of this fallen firefighter were understandably upset. It was definitely not Amanda's intent, definitely not Bravo's. So they did a big apology and cut it from the episode, which I really appreciate, because it definitely seemed like a oops
I think they really wanted to get a second season of the show. I mean, why do you think that it was canceled?
I think it was too early. I think if that show had premiered 2 years later, it would have gotten more. I think as they were just leaning into the Housewives brand, I'm sure they were thinking Princesses would be a companion franchise to Housewives, and that they could do like those women in other cities. But they were almost weirdly in the wrong age bracket because they were too close to the youngest Housewives. You know, it's like if they wanted two generations of women as the Housewives started becoming like 40s, early 50s.
Right.
I wish that Bravo would go more at this market again, because I think this group of women in lots of cities would be really compelling because it is common. You could do Southern princesses, do 26 to 30-year-old women in Alabama, you know, and this is a great group of millennials that would be a really great, but we didn't see it successfully until Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's Vanderpump Rules.
But like nothing else, you know, Opry Ski, like the various versions, only Below Deck has mimicked that. And I think
Summer House as well.
Totally. But Summer House is so much more princesses than it is Below Deck because it's about like privileged kids, you know, because even the working hard Summer House ones, like, but you can still afford a summer house. So like your life isn't that hard. They're definitely like companions to the princesses.
I know that there are some members of the Princesses cast that have been trying to get invited to like parties at the Summer House.
They so should.
Because it would make sense.
Yeah. They are exact. They'd be so right. They should put Chanel in the Summer House.
The producers don't want that. The Summer House producers do not want, or the cast does not want that.
Well, I get why the cast doesn't. I mean, you know, no cast wants new people ever. Like, you know, because every new person is someone who could steal your thunder. I think at a certain point, certain people become threatened in that way. Who was it? One of the shows even said, never mind, it's not a good story. Somebody on one of the shows basically said, like, yeah, I was worried about them stealing my gig. I was like, that's bluntly honest.
What's interesting, when this aired in 2013, the episodes were averaging like between 800 and 900,000 viewers a week, which for like frame of reference, Potomac averages around 1 million. So this is like not that far off.
Yeah, well, and also I think for that time period is even better compared to now. I mean, I feel like it was 2014, 15, 16 that suddenly like Atlanta exploded millions and millions of viewers. And, you know, but then it goes down to like socials and things. Like, yes, Potomac may be a little less in viewers, but it's huge socials, and that's really important. I know from my own little Bravo journey. Because ours, the People's Couch, we had one of the highest favorables on socials, like percentage of positive tweet responses versus negative engagement. Like they pay attention to every aspect. They count every single tweet. They count every, you know, and all of it gets divided into, you know, positives and negatives and sum totals, and all of those things impact. And high social shows can matter as much as actual ratings.
A lot of people were convinced they were going to bring Teddi Mellencamp back because there is such a high level of social engagement with her, because so many people talk about disliking her. And they were like, oh my God, we need to just shut up about her to get her off the screen.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they've like that franchise has to lean in a new direction as well. It's like, I do think Ramona Singer's job has been single-handedly saved by her like grandmother-daughter relationship with Leah McSweeney. I think Ramona would have, because New York has reached the point of also being at the like, I love them. I love the ones I love to hate, but I can tell you every beat of like Ramona's journey through a season. Like I can tell, you know, it was becoming predictable even in my love of it.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, how I was basically saying, like, I just really don't need another season of Jersey. Like, what is going to happen? Tell me what's going to happen that's going to break new ground on Jersey. Like, what new story is there? It's just predictable. Yeah.
There is I think what Leah's doing for New York, right? Like where everyone can see she's single-handedly reinventing the show. It's definitely now like her story with everyone in it. The shows have to keep working to find that person. I think there was no way for them to know Leah would be that. I love everything about her, like beginning to end. Like I know we've discussed but like I'm a Bethany through and through, better for worse. Like that's my person. Leah is probably the second closest to me. Like everything from her self-awareness of like deadpans at the camera and yet continuing to be unfiltered and authentic at the same time. I mean, she is just perfect television. She's aware and still uninhibited, and that's the like crowning jewel of an entertaining reality television personality.
I predict that next season, meaning okay, right now they did just start filming the new season 13 of New York. I predict season 14. So not this thing they're filming now, the next season, I predict if Bethany's HBO Max show fails, I think she will come back to I think that they will clean sweep New York. They will keep Leah, and Bethany and Dorinda will come back, and they will allow Bethany to sort of build the show again around her and allow her to sort of cast it.
Oh, I like this.
Do you think it's possible?
I think that's probably too soon for Bethany. I mean, it clearly like they're still fine with her, even though she left, like how she left, which I love because she's like, whatever, like I do what I want. But that she and Andy are great. She and Bravo seem fine enough. I think she kind of does get to write her own journey with Bravo. They will happily have her. I feel like that season may be too soon because I don't know that they'll know soon enough what's happening. And I feel like her Mark Burnett deal is bigger than just the one show. I feel like I see them still keeping one. I feel like you keep Sonia is who I would keep and let Luann and Ramona go. I think keeping a connection because she does great with Bethany too. Don't forget.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something endearing about Sonia's authenticity because whether she has stuff happening or not, she's such a creator of moments.
Totally.
Just by the way she goes through that are both watchable and entertaining, as opposed to like, I don't need to see Ramona talk down to service persons ever again. Like, I don't need that. I feel like we've done the entire range of Luann's journey unless she manages to get engaged again.
What's another like 1 or 2 season wonder that you either remember or loved?
You know, I was disappointed that Après Ski didn't go longer. I enjoyed that.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
It was just like Below Deck. It was just Vanderpump Rules for skiing for like high end.
Like Aspen?
Yeah, adjacent. I don't think it was actually Aspen. I forget because whatever. But it was literally like these 7 people who work for like super wealthy skiers creating weekends and events and vacations.
That's cool.
I really loved it. I think the problem Bravo has, blessing and curse, is that people follow franchise names on Bravo more than they do other places. Mm-hmm. And they keep trying to introduce new shows with new names they should have just said Vanderpump Rules for Snow. And people, I think, would have given it a bigger shot. Because like people will show up for the Salt Lake City Housewives just because it's called Housewives. I loved Texicanas. Loved it. And I hope they'll get another shot because it was just Real Housewives of San Antonio, but they didn't call it that. And it was great. That cultural mixing in Texas is so unique and interesting. And I want them to get another shot. And I'm afraid they won't just because they didn't call it Housewives. I try everything. I give everything a shot.
Emerson, where can people follow you online and watch any shows that you're producing?
You can find all my info on emersoncollins.com. It's my website. Follow me on Instagram at Emerson Collins. I'm ignoring Twitter because it's a toxic cesspool right now, but I do have one. But send me a DM on Instagram. That's the safe place right now. It's where I do a weekly radio show on LGBTQ news and nonsense, Tuesdays and Fridays with my producing partner, Del Shores, for an hour. We live stream on my YouTube. Just specifically only LGBTQ fun stories and actual news to give us a focus. So that's my contribution.
I love that. Guys, let me know if you want me to do another rewatch of, I've never seen a New York City prep.
Literally anytime. I have nothing but free time. And I think you're great. I love the way you talk about stuff. I love the guests that you have. So many of the people you have on are people I love listening to. I love your fan base. They engage really great. They're smart and fun and funny. I feel like your audience says a lot about you in this day and era, right? You have smart, entertaining, engaged fans that think, and even when they disagree, right? It's banter disagreements, not I'm going to hate you because you're on the wrong side of this fake fight between these women we don't know. So I appreciate your audience as well.
You can follow me, Jess X NYC, follow the show account, Hot Takes Deep Dives, and Emerson and I will see you soon.